Hello and welcome to the latest Travel Weekly webcast. I'm McGonagle, Features Editor at Travel Weekly, and today I'm joined by a fantastic panel of experts to talk about how to sell staycations. We all know there's been a lot of discussion, particularly this week, about the prospects for the UK and Ireland market, looking at this summer and the rest of the year. So we'll discuss how agents can get in on that act and hopefully make the most of the opportunity. To do that, first we are joined by Harold Burke, who joined Grand UK Holidays as Sales Director in 1999 after roles at Co-op Travelcare, Pontins and Butlins. Grand UK Holidays now offers escorted tours around the UK, primarily for an over 55s audience. Next, we have Diana Evans, Managing Director of Great Little Breaks, which focuses on the UK short breaks market with partnerships with the likes of the Royal Horticultural Society. They're now working with more than 2,000 agents nationwide. In fact, you've just announced today in the magazine that your new agent portal is going live in 2 weeks, with Chris Cundall, who's very well known to the trade, coming back from furlough to be your Director of Trade. And last but not least, we've got Shirley Brook, Head of Leisure Sales for GP Associates, which represents a portfolio of independently owned luxury hotels around the world, including a number across the UK and Ireland, such as Gleneagles, Dormy House in the Cotswolds, Merrion in Ireland, and lots of other lovely places. So thank you all for joining me, really appreciate it. We'll have a lot of opportunity to chat about the state of play for the UK and Ireland over the next few months. But let's just start off with a little summary of where you are all at with your businesses. Presumably everything's on pause for now, but when do you guys expect to be able to restart travel within the UK? And Harold, perhaps we'll start off with you on that one.
Yeah, we're hoping to start very soon. We're planning to bring people back, only a small team at the moment, on the 1st of June to start preparing and putting together our brochures and product for a launch around about August time. We're still taking bookings now, but most of the people are going to be waiting until things are a lot clearer. So work in motion, putting brochures, mailings and getting everything prepared from the 1st of June, all things being well.
That sounds good. And Diana, what's the situation for you? Are you getting many bookings at the moment?
I mean, certainly I think the same as most of other tour operators and travel agents at the moment, the last couple of months have been very busy, refunds, amendments, but we've certainly taken this time to kind of reflect and review what we've been offering. And so we took the decision back in April to stop any bookings before the beginning of July. We're obviously having to work tirelessly with our suppliers to make sure that they've got all of their preparations and their safety and social distancing in place ready for July onwards. Certainly what we have seen is there is a trickle of bookings coming through for July and August, but certainly September, October, November certainly seem to be peak months for us at the moment. So yeah, fingers crossed. We haven't, a bit like Harold really, we haven't necessarily engaged in any sort of promotional or marketing activity over the last couple of months, but certainly we're looking to change that over the next few weeks.
Yeah, as the kind of situation develops, I suppose people might get a little bit more receptive to that. And Shirley, what's the situation with the hotels you represent? Are they also kind of shut until July? Are they then
They are indeed. They're all shut, and they're slightly frustrated because there's a slight lack of guidance as to when they can open. I mean, there's this stage of the beginning of July, but a lot of them have to change their whole proposition in terms of social distancing in the restaurants, what sort of occupancy levels they can work to as well, because there's obviously a lot of cleaning and sanitation that's taken has to take place as well. So there's a lot of sort of preparation to be able to open the doors. It's not just a case of opening your doors and letting people in. Very different to what it was before. Obviously, they're all desperate to get going because the local communities that they support and the staff all need to get back to work. So huge appetite to get going, but it's a case of when and how.
Mm.
Absolutely, and it is a huge undertaking to think about how we're all going to do things differently in the short to medium term, but also perhaps in the longer term. We'll see. So, Diana, it's interesting that you say that you are still getting a little trickle of bookings, and when they are looking at coming in, particularly September and October. How do you think domestic tourism is going to develop over the next few months as lockdown measures begin to be lifted? Some of our readers might have seen that Patricia Yates for Visit Britain was speaking yesterday at a DCMS hearing about research that shows that 74% of those with UK booking between July and September are not hugely confident that it will go ahead. So that doesn't spell a particularly positive message for the summer, but it does suggest perhaps from your experience that September onwards might be looking a bit more promising. What do you think are the prospects?
Yeah, well, we recently ran a customer survey a few weeks ago now, and just asking our customers what their kind of perceptions and what their views were. Now, a positive response actually, that over 60% of them wanted to take a break within 3 months of lockdown being lifted, but only 17% wanted to take that within a month of it being lifted. I still think there's so much uncertainty of sort of July, August, because at the moment it's a proposed date. It's not been set in stone. We don't know if things are going to change. From a leisure traveller perspective, when they're obviously going on a UK short breaks, certainly from our customer experience, they want to know what they can kind of visit in the area, what dining places are open, what kind of services are going to be at the hotel. And I still think whilst there's that little bit of uncertainty of what that looks like, it's going to be a slow start to July and August. But I mean, traditionally the UK short breaks market has seen a sort of late lead-in time anyway for the summer. So all things being going well and how those government restrictions are lifted in July, we might start to see then a spike for very last minute bookings for July and August.
That's interesting, yeah. And Shirley, I mean, kind of as you were saying before, it's not going to be a sudden return at the beginning of July, is it? And it sounds like Diana's experience bears that out. Are you and your hotels, are they expecting a kind of staggered recovery kind of towards the end of the summer and perhaps into autumn?
Well, it's really interesting because we're getting inquiries all the time, and particularly from sort of expat agents, like say looking after Russians, for example, who are desperate to go. They want to go now. And we have to say, hang on a second, you can't actually go. So there's this huge pent-up energy. And also, because we sell internationally as well, international hotels, that's even more in the balance than the UK. So a lot of people who would, potentially take a villa in the South France or Italy or wherever, they now want to go to the UK. They feel more comfortable with that. They actually have there's sort of two cases. There's people who are sort of too scared to go to an airport, so they want to stay domestically. And we've had lots and lots of inquiries for that. And then there's the others who just the minute things open, they want to get going. But from the hotel's perspective, it's a bit more difficult because they have all these things to consider. Like some of our hotels, we've got one hotel that's got 63 bedrooms, and their restaurant can normally take 130 people. But because of the social distancing, they can only take 48 covers in their restaurants. Then there's a disconnect between the amount of accommodation you can sell versus the restaurants. So so there's all these things going on. Do you do room service? Do you do, how's the spa going to operate? Because a lot of country house hotels, that's why you potentially go to the hotel. And the swimming pool as well. Is it, if it's chlorinated enough, is that going to be enough? So lots and lots of challenges for these hotels to think about. And it will be staggered until everyone gets their heads around this.
Yeah, no, I would echo that. Certainly from speaking to the hoteliers that we've had conversations with, they're all kind of tirelessly working behind those plans, still not quite sure what it looks like. Yeah. But certainly I echo what Shirley says with regards to the bedroom occupancy and how they're going to do the restaurants, because a lot of these hotels aren't necessarily set up to dine 100% of their residents within the restaurant. So yeah, I think it's certainly going to be a phased approach, and we'll start to see kind of some hotels kind of leading the way and the others following, I think.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see who manages to nail down that formula first, won't it? And Harold, what about your audience? It's a slightly different product.
We took a completely different approach on this. As soon as the announcement was made for lockdown, we cancelled all our tours till the end of June, and we've already cancelled all our holidays now till the end of July, and we're now moving on August. Primarily because of our customers are in the most vulnerable age category, and for us, as an operator, we don't think we would be responsible to try and encourage people to go away at this point in time. So we're currently, hopefully things may improve by September, but our earliest expectation for this particular sector, the mature market, is moving in by coach is probably more towards November at the moment. But we're very apprehensive at the moment. But like every other business, we're watching the situation day by day. We're particularly watching what's happening in Europe now, because they're a couple of weeks ahead of us. So it's going to be interesting to see how they fare. They're already opening restaurants and opening borders and opening beaches. All these plans are in place. And for us as a sector and a market in general, we've got to look and see what happens overseas, and what happens now. Some of the restrictions in the UK are starting to be limited, and there's a little bit more leeway on people getting out and about. So it's rather than the X Factor, we're all watching the R Factor all around the globe at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, it is interesting to look at having to take that slightly tailored approach depending on your audience. Of course, the over 55s are in the more vulnerable market, and they are perhaps going to be a little slower to return to travelling. But do you feel confident in the kind of medium to longer term that they will come back? And if so, what kind of product do you think is going to be popular? I mean, you do lots of festive breaks, for example. Are you looking at kind of November, December holidays as an option to bring that market back into travelling?
We already have our November, December tours in place. We've got lots of bookings on there. We've got all the people who went. 80% of the people who booked from March onwards have happily deferred to later dates, and they're waiting to see what we're doing. We've got people who were going on cruises from the UK who are all keen to rebook on the new dates. So the market itself, the sector itself, is generally very, very confident. You've got some of the more vulnerable people who are less confident, and the families will be telling them to stay at home. And it's just one of those things where it's going to be bit by bit. The first thing that's going to start off is going to be the self-catering sector. So where people can go self-drive, and probably the younger people, and it'll build from there. And we'll all get our confidence from seeing those markets start up and start to work.
I would totally agree with that. We represent Wilderness in Suffolk, which is basically houses on this beautiful estate. It has been inundated with inquiries because people, feel comfortable. They're self-isolating in a way, and that's been a huge inquiry pool for us.
Yeah, undoubtedly. I mean, we've seen sort of that trend as well. People are looking for self-catering. They're desperate to go away, but they almost want to kind of contain themselves within that bubble. Certainly the inquiries that we've seen coming through and through the survey, people are definitely looking for coastal, rural, out of the hustle and bustle, away from everything, and certainly inquiries sort of taking up in like the Lake District and Cotswolds. Surprisingly, not necessarily so much down in the southwest.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I mean, it does seem like there's a lot of appetite for those remoter, more rural, coastal kind of regions. Are you finding any issues with some sort of hesitancy from the local populations there about whether they actually want lots of tourists coming back in? I mean, I'm sure that their local economies are very much dependent on tourism, so some people will absolutely want tourists to come back, but we have heard reports that some local communities are feeling a little bit hesitant about having sort of a huge influx of people from London or from the big cities, and perhaps prolonging some of the issues around coronavirus.
Yeah, well, you can kind of see that in the media, can't you? And I think certainly celebrities or people with second houses are getting frowned upon and shunned down in certain areas. I had a conversation with the chief exec of a tourist board not that long ago, and actually he was finding himself in a bit of a conundrum because he's always been visit, come visit, and now he's almost finding himself saying, actually, please don't come for a while. So yeah, I think it's going to be difficult. And I think it's going to sort of change over time as perceptions change. I mean, we've seen how things can change so rapidly week by week over the last 6 weeks. So I'm sure that will start to change again.
However, I think there's been a bit of a shift because I think it's all been about the health, and it's all been about like keep away and that sort of thing. But now it's kind of the economy needs to get geared up as well. So I think, some of the, concerns maybe 8 weeks ago are beginning to dissipate a bit, because people need it. They need to get the economies going. And when they are seeing the R rate going down, you know, they feel a bit more comfortable, I think.
Yeah, and it does. The conversation is moving on very quickly, as is the public mood. Sorry, Harold, did you have a take on that as well?
Yeah, I agree that the confidence is slowly returning in some respects. What we've got to hope is that that's, you know, well-founded confidence, because we do need to get the economy going, but we don't need to get the economy going at a pace which risks a second wave coming through.
Absolutely.
And that would be the worst case scenario. So for me, it's patience. It's always better to proceed with caution in everything we do.
And I think customers will respect that approach as well. I mean, certainly we found that we've kind of said, you know, we're not taking this opportunity to promote anything to you until we know it's safe to do so.
Absolutely. And I think that there's been a real sort of, like, I'm a salesperson, but there's been a real sort of like, don't sell at the moment. It's being sympathetic, because you don't know people's circumstances, and you don't know, you know, have they had anyone ill in their life, or, you know, whatever. So it's very much a kind of sympathetic, everybody working together. There's great partnerships created through this crisis, I think.
Oh, absolutely. And there's a sort of a very much a patriotic approach that you're seeing within the communities and with suppliers. So I think long may that last.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Yeah, I think how people kind of deal with a crisis tends to be quite a good test of how they are in life, isn't it? And as you say, it's those relationships that are being forged now that will last quite a long time. And speaking of relationships, actually, you've also got to think about your relationships with travel agents and what they can actually do to sell this market, to promote it, but as you say, to promote it sensitively. How are you finding your relationships with agents at the moment, and what practical advice would you have for agents, particularly those who might not have sold a huge number of domestic holidays before now? They might have spent 95% of their time selling outbound holidays, and now they're suddenly having to switch gears. What practically can they do in order to make the most of the market?
I think it's been quite difficult for them over certainly the last couple of months, and they're starting to kind of come out of that curve where they've just been influxed with refunds and amendments. Certainly what we've kind of experienced at UK is tend to have been kind of a second thought, an ancillary product, as opposed to their overseas. So we're doing a lot of work behind the scenes, trying to pull content together and product knowledge of things that people can do in the area. As I said, we're bringing back Chris early to make sure that we've got the training materials, the downloadable marketing materials in place so that they can sell the UK confidently and simply as well.
Yeah, it's absolutely all about that product knowledge and training, isn't it? And Harold, I mean, you've probably got a slightly a longer relationship with some agents. You probably deal with a lot of agents who do sell UK holidays. So are they having any success with particular methods, or are they kind of putting that knowledge that they already have to good use?
I think at the moment, they're like most businesses, they've been in furlough, they've been in shutdown, they've been waiting to come out and see what's happening in the world. And now, we're only really just now starting to re-establish ourselves. I don't mean that from a Grand UK perspective. I mean that from an industry perspective. How are we all going to get back up and running? Where are going to be the first shoots of this new growth, and how's the industry going to look at it as a whole? One of the things that we have, we have got to overcome as a company is the factor that one of the most critical things for the whole industry getting back together is getting people on coaches. A lot of people who travel overseas have always said, "Oh, we wouldn't go on a coach holiday." But you found me one person who goes on an overseas package holiday, who doesn't get off the aircraft onto a coach, who doesn't go on a coach trip while they're away there. We all need coaches, and the coach industry at the moment is the one that's really suffering. It's not got the same support as the bus industry, and until we can all get people safely on board coaches, then the whole recovery is going to be very slow. But it's primarily, working with agents, it's making sure that we can get coaches on the road, and those coach companies are still there. And the markets for the agents to go at are huge from our perspective, because it's almost a captured market. It's knowing your local communities, it's knowing how to get to them. The internet's going to be more important now than ever, because the high street's going to be slower to recover. So it's how they can, work remotely, whether they're working still from home, whether they're working from the offices, to contact, our age group, most of them whom are members of clubs, like organisations like the Women's Institute, the University of the Third Age, lots and lots of garden clubs, bridge clubs, social clubs, all sorts of different organisations that the agent needs to be thinking about, and then to find out what they want to do and where they want to go, and make sure that they've got the product, like holidays by coach, self-drive holidays, catered, all types of catered holidays, cottage holidays. That's them establishing the relationship with operators like ourselves, and making sure that they're working on a relationship that's for the long term, and not just a short term measure until the overseas market springs back.
Yeah, and actually this might even represent a kind of opportunity for really enterprising agents, as you say, to reach out to those local groups that perhaps they hadn't dealt with before, hadn't had got good relationships with them, and actually show that they can sell a UK holiday, use those marketing techniques and their existing databases as well to perhaps change perceptions of coach holidays as well, as you suggest.
Yeah, what I would say on that is we have a number of agents. We've not done as many in recent years, but certainly we have a lot of agents where we actually put coach holidays together for the agent to sell to their local community. And sometimes it's a number of co-op travel branches getting together, or Hayes travel branches getting together to make sure they can fill a coach. That works well because of the fact that it's their agent, it's their holiday, and it's a bit more bespoke, exclusive for local people, so they've got a better idea who they're going to be traveling with as well.
Yeah, you can see how that would be very appealing in the post-coronavirus market. And Shirley, what about at the luxury end of the market? I mean, we often hear that luxury travellers are a little bit more resilient. They tend to have a little bit more means to do a few UK holidays, so they might well already have UK bookings. Do you think there's going to be the same level of confidence with them, or is that also going to be take time to recover?
No, I think, and like as I say, we're getting inquiries already. I think we've been very lucky because we've always had a UK collection for the last 23 years of being in business. So our travel agents know that we sell the UK. But in the past, I guess they didn't think it was a big commission check. They must prefer to book Jumbie Bay Island, one of our hotels, for 150 grand to get the commission on that versus a UK property. But now I think it's a great revenue stream for them to earn commission. And, if you took over a Fox Hill Manor in the Farncombe Estate for a week for one of your clients, you can earn a really nice commission on that. And I think, the message for us is we're keeping in touch with all our agents, and we're just saying, be proactive, speak to your client and say, have you got a birthday coming up that we could, facilitate a group of friends to go together to a hotel. Especially in this market, I guess, with a lot of our agents have got international clients that maybe are stuck here in the UK that possibly have never been to the Cotswolds, have never been down to Beaverbrook and Surrey. There's an opportunity for them to visit these beautiful parts of England. We've created a brochure that we've sent out to our agency community. We've added value to all our hotel propositions, so they've got a carrot to give their clients as well. And it's gone down really, really well. So as soon as things are ready to go, they're ready to go, and training them and letting them know about the properties. And so no, I think that a lot of them haven't earned commission for a long time, and they want to. So and the domestic market is going to be the first to open up. So it's a positive thing for them.
Yeah, and once again,
our agency community,
Yeah. Definitely. And once again, it sounds like there is an opportunity for agents to kind of expand into areas that they might not have served particularly before. They might not have seen it as a huge revenue stream, but as you say, in a very different market, it suddenly does seem quite appealing.
Yeah.
So
I mean, there's this big chat, everybody wants to get together with their families. Like, I haven't seen my family for, a long time because they're in Ireland, but, people in the UK haven't seen their families and they want to get back together again and maybe celebrate in a hotel. So, collating those multi-generational groups as well, taking over, a house in Wilderness in Suffolk. Happy days.
Yeah, absolutely. I would echo that. I mean, I've just had a look through some of the bookings that we've had over the last few days, and actually, interestingly, they've not been for one room, they've been for 4, 5, several rooms. And so that's people that are getting together. They're desperate to get together because they just haven't seen people for
friends,
such a time.
family. Yeah, absolutely. Or the other thing is, golf, like Gleneagles obviously is, amazing golf courses. That's something, groups of friends. Okay, at the moment it's a little bit restricted, but it will open up and they'll want to get together and play around because they haven't been able to do that for some time either. So yeah, it's all very positive, I think.
Yeah, and do you think perhaps looking a bit longer term, so obviously we've been talking mainly about the summer towards the end of the year, do you think longer term, the next kind of 2, 3, 4 years, that this might also change our holiday habits a little bit? We might be taking the UK and Ireland a little bit more seriously as a proper destination and actually might look to holiday at home more often?
I think certainly this whole kind of crisis situation has sort of taught people, I don't know, I mean, from speaking to our customers, they're very much appreciative of what we have here. And it goes back to that whole patriotism thing I kind of mentioned earlier. I mean, sort of staycation market's been around for a while. And certainly I think, the overseas travel and the inbound tourism is going to take slightly longer to recover, that there's huge opportunities over the next couple of years.
Yeah, and I think also, the economy is having a tough time. Sorry to go on about the economy, but, we'll all want to kind of shift it into gear. I mean, I might think, yeah, let's spend our money in England versus going to Venice for a weekend, because we want to support industry.
Yeah, and when you think of your hotels as well, if you haven't got to shell out for flights, perhaps you treat yourself to a slightly nicer quality of hotel than you would be able to afford in Venice. But do it in the UK, get there under your own steam, and have just as lovely a weekend.
Yeah, and at the moment, going on under your own steam, that is a big element, I think. Yeah. Or hotels now organising the transfer in the luxury market, organising the transfer from your home to the hotel in the Cotswolds, where there's the sanitation, where the everything is cocooned a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, and Harold, looking at your audience as well, do you think the over 55s might feel a bit more comfortable with holidaying at home for the next couple of years? This has been a bit of a crisis of confidence for that market, I think, in travelling. So do you see the UK and Ireland perhaps benefiting in the longer term from this?
I think to some extent, I disagree, because I think that the over 50s in the mature market have always valued the UK.
That's true.
Product, and have always done short breaks. But I think a lot of it's been done independently, so it's not necessarily been recognised. People are always, keen to have a short break, a couple of nights away. Maybe not travelling too far, maybe going to London to see a show, or somewhere closer to home where there's an event. Kinrin in the northeast is a huge event that takes place in the northeast that attracts 8,000 people to the show every weekend when it takes place. And there's lots going on in the UK, but I think Shirley was bang on the money earlier on when she said there's so much undiscovered that we haven't seen in our own backyard. So there's other areas as well for the agents to look at that we haven't touched on, that if we can get things up and running, if we can get coaches moving, Christmas and New Year holidays, people getting together, we take thousands of people away at Christmas time and over the New Year, and I think those numbers will grow this Christmas because as we've been saying, people have been stuck indoors. They want to get out. They want to meet the family. It's probably going to be easier for families to gather in a hotel somewhere in the UK, and what better time than Christmas and New Year? And there's also lots and lots of, there's thousands and thousands of people who are singles, who have nobody to go away with on holiday. They've lost the partners, they've lost the travelling companions. One of our biggest unique selling points is that on a UK holiday, we don't charge single room supplements. And over 50% of the people who go away with us at Christmas time are singles. And we have hotels. We have hotels where we'll have 49 seats on the coach, and everybody will be a single person. But they love it because they're with other like-minded people. They make friends. We have tour manager escorts there that make sure that they, as a holiday, it bonds together and nobody feels left out. And it's a big market to tap into for this year, provided, as I say, we get over the social distancing aspects, and we can get people on coaches.
Absolutely.
Christmas will be a boom time, especially for singles. They're markets for the agents to look at.
Yeah, if people have been in lockdown on their own, I mean, absolutely, they're going to be desperate to get away, mix with other people again, have a lovely Christmas, because they've not been able to do as much in the early part of the year. And Shirley, you wanted to come in on something there.
No, I just wanted to say to Harold, how many people come back single after being on one of your journeys? Break some relationships.
I couldn't possibly say.
Well, who knows? Even more advantages to sell a single.
We have had people who have got married after meeting on holiday.
I'm sure it sounds lovely.
We've all got those stories.
It sounds wonderful, yeah.
Matchmaker, it's the same thing, isn't it? And I'm afraid we're running out of time, but I would finally just like to ask each of you where you want to go in the UK and Ireland once you can travel again. Have you got any favourite destinations or somewhere that you've always wanted to go but have finally decided that you'll go and visit now?
Well, one of my favourite destinations is Scotland. I travelled and did the NC 500 a couple of years ago, which is absolutely breathtaking. But I'd actually really like to go and explore Harold's part of the world and the East Coast, because absolutely stunning. But I've never really holidayed down there, so that's.
You've got so much to look forward to. Yeah,
Harold for some tips.
Roy's at Wroxham.
I was going to say, so Harold, tell us a little bit about where you are and what the highlights are there.
Oh, there's so much around here, but just the open countryside and the different beaches. You've got, whether you want a big popular seaside beach and resort like Great Yarmouth, to something much smaller like Sea Palling, which is, a bit further along the coast. You've got Horsey, where you get the seals and the baby seals at different times of the year. We've got the nature parks. We've got places like Blickling Hall and Cromer with its famous pier. You just go all around all the coast of Norfolk. There's just so many different places and so many different attractions going for it. And of course the Broads themselves. There's nothing better than having a day boat on the Norfolk Broads, a hire for a week on the Norfolk Broads. The Norfolk Broads cruises from Broads Tours and from Horning, where you can get again on a Mississippi steamer. And the sights and the wildlife. I'm pretty privileged here since I moved from the north.
I don't think people appreciate. I mean, there's like 90 miles of beaches, isn't there, down in Norfolk? So I think people just
Norwich, and with its cathedral, great shopping, a great market, loads of different shops, and it's a brilliant place to come. We moved down here 20 years ago, and I'm due to retire this year, and I'm going to explore more of it.
Sounds good. Well, you've got yourself sorted. So, Shirley, where would you like to go?
Well, if we're talking about the UK and Ireland, obviously I'd like to go to Ireland. I'd like to go to Dublin to see my family. That would be fantastic. Maybe have lunch at the Marion, which is one of my hotels. But I've always wanted. I went to the Lake District when I was a brownie, a Girl Guide brownie. And that was probably, I won't tell you, I'm probably falling into the mature gang of Harolds. But I'd love to go there and explore there. And it always seems too long way. And I think we'll do that this year, actually.
Some nice travel plans for all of us, so we can play out this trend towards UK and Ireland holidays that we've been chatting about. Well, I'm afraid we're out of time, so thank you very much to Harold, to Shirley and to Diana for joining me to talk about staycations. Do have a look at this week's Travel Weekly for a lot more on the UK and Ireland, both in our features, news pages and comment pages, looking at how agents can tap into this market. Otherwise, we will see you next week for the next Travel Weekly webcast. Thanks very much.